The comments and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not reflect those of their employers, friends, families, or casual acquaintances.
The following program is brought to you in living color on A2B. Hey, Greg.
Hey there, how are you?
Pretty good, thanks. We're just waiting on Bob to get home from practice. My phone is blinking. Let me just see if that's Bob. He lives very close to the pool, so as soon as he gets home, sometimes he has to box up or crate his dogs or kick them outside because they they like to participate in the conversations, I think. Coach Button, welcome to the melee.
Holy smokes. It always seems like it takes me an extra dozen steps. Thanks for doing this, Greg.
Hey, thanks for asking.
We'll do a more professional sounding introduction post-recording, so you don't have to worry about that right now.
Expect nothing less from what is it, the second best podcast out there?
It's second most exciting.
Second most exciting, yes. And mostly
it's more than good. It's adequate, I read.
It's adequate, yeah. It actually is.
I checked out the reviews before
We're better than good. We're adequate. Yeah, well, yeah. It gets pretty exciting, especially when the fire gets started, Dodging the flames is always exciting. You want to do the welcome and the introductory comments this time?
Yeah.
All right, because I know you've prepared them.
You're always well prepared. Okay.
Yeah, okay. So, we're rolling.
And now, the world's second most exciting podcast, Swim Talk A2B, home of lane lines, starting blocks, and clear blue water.
Hello, and welcome to Swim Talk A2B. I'm Dana Abbott, inviting you to join me and Bob Button in another exciting podcast episode coming to you from the Swim Talk A2B World Headquarters right after this. This episode of Swim Talk A2B is brought to you courtesy of the College Swimming and Diving Coaches Association of America, the CSCAA.
Today we're chatting with the Executive Director of the College Swimming and Diving Coaches Association. Most of you know it as CSCAA, Greg Earhart. Coach, thanks so much for joining us on such short notice.
Hey, Bob and Dana, I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, you're knee-deep in prepping for a huge digital convention right now, Greg. So I promised when you agreed to come on to keep this short. Can you give our listeners a rundown on what y'all have going next week?
We had to, in the era of social distancing, kind of look at realistically canceling our convention and not so much. I mean, I think the safety standpoint is obviously there, but more than that, we've seen our coaches just have their professional development budgets gutted in the last year. So we thought, what do we got to do to bring people together? And as with most things, I just was like, well, let's go a little overboard. And that's exactly what we did. So we set a goal. It was just saying, let's see if we can get 50 presenters for this thing. And I think our staff looked at me and they're like, okay, how are we going to do that? And I was like, I don't know. We're going to be building this plane as we go. And sure enough, we lined up more than 50 now. I think I was looking, we have 73 different presentations. And, the other thing was we were kind of just looking at it from a more holistic standpoint. And we were like, okay, what can we do to make it really accessible for people? So we slashed the price. And usually I think it's right around $250, $350 to attend. And we're like, let's just start it at $79 for our college coaches and I think $99 or $129 for anybody. I'm like, if we've accumulated this level of expertise and talent, it's not cool to just hoard it ourselves. It's kind of like when you have success, the more people that are involved, the more you get to share that success. And we were like, well, let's make sure that it's affordable for everybody because this certainly is not a money grab for us by any stretch of the imagination, but we just like, this is so good. This is going to be so good. We just have to share it with as many folks as we can.
So you're saying this is available for Johnny Nobody like me? You don't have to be a college coach to be in on this?
No, in fact, I was just looking today. Some like the head of the German para team has signed up. I was like, I don't know where people are finding out about this, but hey, that's great, because when it comes to marketing, we can't get out of our own way in that area. But yeah, so we've made it available to everybody. There'll be a couple sessions that that won't be that way. I think that's one of the things that has been great about our convention in years past is you get college coaches that will often let their guard down among their peers that you don't get if you see them at a meet or another convention, because somebody's always jonesing to meet with a coach about a recruit or something along those lines. And so there'll be a couple discussions that relate to legislative issues, recruiting issues that won't be available for everybody. But
Sure.
90% of the stuff is applicable to everybody. And what's been really cool for us is, it's having this format has allowed us to kind of identify some new folks and just get new voices. I think you guys have been around long enough and gone to enough coaches convention. You kind of see similar names year in, year out. And there's a lot of really good people doing a lot of good things at multiple levels. So reached out to Jamie Lewis at USA Swimming, and I was like, hey, give me a list of just 2 or 3 coaches that you think are doing it right, doing it great. And then, one of them is Dana Skelton down there at First Colony. And
yeah, we've had her on.
I know. You were cool before we were cool. And it was neat. I started talking to her, and just, you guys know, she does it right. I mean, she has a good foundation, not just the swimming side, but what we're trying to do with kids overall. And it resonates across boundaries to the point where I was like, Dana, after this call, I'm gonna put you in contact with George Kennedy. Like, I don't know why, but you guys just seem like peas in the pod, and I think you would learn a lot from one another. That's something that we'd never, if all I do is just focus on college stuff, I would never learn about. I'd never get an opportunity to learn about. And I think so it's good for us to be able to kind of broaden our reach as well. And having someone like Bruce Gemmel, who's going to talk about just the need for coaches to communicate. College, club, high school, it's, none of us has a monopoly on good ideas, and we're all smarter together than we are individually.
This really sounds like it's going to be pretty exciting. I hope we can get the word out. It sounds like you have. So you're going to maybe get a lot of club, high school, maybe even some age group coaches listening in.
I hope so. I think we've tried to make it as accessible as anything. I think we've all learned in the last year, as much as we're zoomed out, it just unlocks so many more opportunities for us. The most we've ever had at our convention is 320 people. And every year our convention, we lose a little bit of money on it. But it's fine, because we bring we bring a good chunk of our coaches together and learn from one another. And that's a service that we provide to our coaches. When I looked just before we logged on tonight, I was like, holy crap, we're at 553. So when you say it's exciting, yes,
it's going to be 554.
I'm not sure which parts are going to be exciting, and I'm worried about the ones that might break before we go live. But I think.
Well, I know I'm going to sign up when I get off of this. I didn't know we could join in. So yeah, I'm definitely going to be in. This is great. Hey, while we got you on, I know I'm going to shift gears here. Is there anything new on the adding or reinstatement front that you're going to be able to share with us? Anything going on?
Nothing right now, I would say. I think, this is quite frankly, this is a scary time. If an AD is got a sport, honestly, May is when you do it. That's when people leave campuses. That's when people aren't activated. People's eyes towards different things, towards different things. I think we lucked out with some of these schools that decided to do it last September, in August, because we were able to mobilize folks. I think it's been rare to have some wins, and we'll actually talk about that at the convention. We've got 2 different talks, one by Arthur Bryant, who's an attorney and is, really spearheaded the efforts at Dartmouth and East Carolina, and, not just our sports, but William and Mary and UNC Pembroke for golf, Brown for about 11 sports. And then we also have Matt Crispino and Jamie Platt from Princeton and Middle Atlantic, who will talk about kind of the strategies that they took just on the men's side to do things. So the challenge is we keep getting better at fighting back, and administrators keep getting better, or the finances just keep getting more and more dire. So it's a never ending challenge to prove our worth on campuses. But right now, I was talking with our staff today, and it's like, all eyes are on convention, but things could go sideways on Friday if so-and-so decides they want to eliminate their team. And now my gears change.
I was going to say, Greg, if you had a few more minutes, I wondered if you'd look into your crystal ball and give us the odds on seeing a normal 21-22 college swim season as far as COVID goes.
I feel reasonably optimistic. I think and that's not something people are used to hearing from me. I remember talking with some of our coaches last May and saying, I doubt you will have meets before January 1. And they were kind of like, what? But I think when we look at the number of people getting vaccines, when we look at the number of schools that are now requiring vaccines to come back in the fall, I feel reasonably certain that we're going to look at what we consider a quote unquote normal season. I think, there may be some cool things that come out of this, that make our season not as normal. I think we've learned how to minimize our costs to our budgets and to our own personal health in terms of virtual recruiting. I think innovative approaches to meets to create more engagement are different. I think, looking at the number of people that have swum fast on just one workout a day, if you're a coach, you better have learned something from that. So, it's funny, about a week ago, Facebook reminded me of something I said last week. And it was like, when all this is over, are we going to have a story to tell? Every one of us is going to have a story to tell, is yours worth telling. So I think it's going to be as normal as we expect. And the nice thing is I would expect and hope that we all appreciate what we have in this sport much, much more than we ever have.
Greg, you mentioned dire financial situations at a lot of schools because of cutbacks and budgets and so on. In an interview with Swimming World last fall, you tackled the topic of generating revenue through fundraising and improving connections with alumni. And the CSCAA has added a certificate program to the Coach Academy that helps coaches improve their ability to do this. Can you tell us a little bit about the problem that colleges are facing financially and some possible solutions, including this approach to fundraising that you guys have addressed?
I think the problems are a little bit different on every campus. If you are at, a big time, say a Big Ten or an SEC school, it's awfully tough to regain $40 million of football ticket revenue that you lost from an empty stadium or lesser TV contracts. If you're at a private institution, the number of kids that didn't return in the fall, those are real dollars that schools lose out. If you're at a state institution, you're relying on student athletic fees and your enrollment takes a dip of 10%, which is kind of what actually about 18% is what we saw among undergraduates last fall. You're talking about tens, if not hundreds of $1,000s from athletic department budgets that are getting pulled out. So, and I do think some of these are true issues. We've actually seen schools returning endowment funds to donors because they're like, we simply can't afford this program anymore. And we often think about it from an endowment standpoint. You're like, well, if you endow something, it's free. very few programs are truly fully endowed. So in some ways, if you say endow the head coaching position, you haven't made the program free. The program is free, like a free puppy is free. You didn't have to pay to get the puppy, but guess what? You're going to pay for the vet bills and the food and the pool upkeep and equipment and everything else that goes along with that. So I think what we've done, though, is we realize that our coaches have, for the most part, if you've been around, you've done an exceptionally good job of engendering loyalty among the people that are a part of your program. When we talk to alums, they are loyal to their coach first, and then their program, and then something else that hooked them on campus. It might be the bench where they proposed to their wife. It might be the chemistry professor that helped them get through. And you keep going down, and finally it's like the annual gift to your school. So what we decided to do was bring what I think are some ace fundraisers among coaches together to just kind of really help our coaches along, because so many young coaches, you grow up thinking your job revolves around the stopwatch and recruiting the next class. And at so many schools now, you're not just doing that. You're also pseudo academic advisor, you're pseudo fundraiser, and fundraising is just something that gets dumped down a long, long list of things that coaches are expected to do. So we want to be able to give coaches some models, some hope, some encouragement. So it was part architecting things. It was part troubleshooting. It was part inspiring that we did. We had a cohort of about 30 coaches that went through it. And I think we're going to build on it next year. We've got another group that is kind of a professional fundraising group that is really eager to help us see this. And it's been good. We had our last session about 2 weeks ago, and we kind of did like just a Q&A after it. And we basically said, hey, review us how we did, because we put this together really, really quickly. And the response among the coaches was phenomenal. It was like, hey, this gave me the courage to actually ask somebody for a good amount of money. This allowed me to communicate with my gifts officer, who I didn't know, and we were able to work together to solicit this person. Or another coach saying, hey, we've got every senior that's graduating that is now going to give $10 a month, and once they're on auto pay for a couple of years, it's just like Netflix. It's just like everything else. And the beauty of donations like that is, if you cut the program, those donations they end. So it's not as if you're donating a large sum of money and then, hoping that they don't ever cut the program and use that money for something else. It's like a spigot. You cut the team and the funding, takes a hit. And so I give a lot of credit to Rick Walker at Southern Illinois, because he's got 700 alumni. And when you're donating between 10 and $100 a month, you're not an expenditure anymore. You're a line item in Southern Illinois' budget. And if you're smart, you don't dare touch swimming, because that it'll cost you. So, we know that we have people that are loyal. We also have a lot of coaches that just aren't used to doing that. And it's really, it's not that tough, because if you're a good coach and you're a good recruiter, you know how to do, you have the same skills that you would need otherwise to be a fundraiser. And
Craig, that's not a bad idea for high school.
No, I mean, we have, our sport offers a lot. We're not as diverse as we'd like to be, but I guess the upshot of that is we do have really good kids that come through it, that have their lives transformed by coaches and by our sport. And as a result, they're loyal to it, and they want to see those opportunities continue and carry on for future kids.
Well, if we have more alumni donating to these programs, that's going to help financially. Bob and I had a lengthy discussion last weekend about needing more college programs instead of losing them, and also growing existing high school programs by adding new ones when new high schools get built, or adding programs in existing schools that don't have them. And I suggested, because I heard this from another coach a long time ago, that almost any kid who wants to swim in college can swim in college. although it may not be at UVA or Indiana or Cal or Texas. You think that's true?
Trust me, if I was able to swim in college, anybody can swim in college. I started swimming in my freshman year in high school, and then I had spinal surgery my sophomore year. And I came out of high school swimming 100 breaststroke and 108, and that was yards. I'm going to say when I swam it, but I found a school that I could swim at. They were bad. Don't get me wrong. We went to meets in a car. The first year we literally went to meets in a Ford Tempo, which, if you remember that, was a step down from the Ford Taurus.
And we went in a horse and buggy. So,
but it's the same thing. Like I learned the value of teamwork. I learned that, hey, things are going to be tough. You're going to have finals, and you're going to have social obligations, and you're going to want to swim fast, and you're going to have to figure it out if you want to make it. And I'm certain, somehow I'm still involved in this crazy sport, even though I wouldn't consider myself a great coach, and I certainly was not a great swimmer. I did get down to 106. I was pretty pleased with that, but that would have got me the Nebraska State High School Cup my senior year.
All right.
But yeah, there's so many good. There is a place for everybody, and it's not just speed. It's like where you fit in. I like to say that there's a continuum of competitiveness out there. And yeah, you have your Indianas and you have your Virginias and places like that. But you also have places that, they have a swim team the same way they have a jazz band organization or a school newspaper. It's another opportunity for kids to get involved. And, if you're super competitive and you go to one of those programs, you're not going to have a great experience. But at the same time, if you want to be really well-rounded and do a lot of different things, well, guess what? Virginia might not be the right place for you. I think it's just a matter of finding the right place. But there is definitely a place for everybody. Sometimes you just have to hunt to find them.
Well, last year we had shortened or postponed or even canceled high school season. Same thing happened in college. We were midway through one of the NCAA meets and they just stopped it right in the middle. But based on what you've heard or experienced this past year, can you share what you've learned about how the pandemic has affected recruiting?
It's left a lot of people lost. I think if you're one of the top 20 women or 15 men in say the class of 2022 or 2013 or 2023, you're fine. That talent rises to the crop. The NCAA threw us a big curveball 3 years ago now when they opened up recruiting to juniors. And it is something our coaches vehemently opposed, but the NCAA wanted to standardize all recruiting. So they made it earlier for us, but at the same time made it later for volleyball and made it later for softball and some of these other sports. So it's interesting. The SEC is actually kind of taken up this banner and said, what's a better model for swimming? But it's I think what it's done is it's gonna be tough to see. I'd rather look at it from the value of a couple of years later, because we have coaches that have really adapted to recruiting virtually. And you can say, I don't get the same sense of a kid, or the kid doesn't get the same sense of me as I'm sitting in the office and I get a chance to see them or how they interact with their parents. But at the same time, you know what? Nobody's worrying about whether or not they have a great party that impresses a recruit. So I think recruits are able, it's 6 of one, half dozen the other. I don't know if it's going to be better or worse, but I think what it has done is it has put alarm bells under a lot of parents and kids. And what I try to remind people is don't base your college decision on somebody else's timeline. Base a decision on your timeline, and it's the same thing. If a car dealer says, hey, this deal is going to be good for, till the end of tomorrow, that's, you want to make the decision when it feels right to you. And if money is on the line, you our coaches do have realities. They have to if you say no, go on to the next recruit. But bet on yourself as a kid and say, I don't feel right about this, or I don't want to make a decision just on money. I want to feel a decision based on what my heart says. And I'm going to ignore all the stuff that I'm seeing on Instagram of my friends committing here, there, or elsewhere, and do it on my own time. And that's tough to do, but I think it's something that people can take confidence in, and you're seeing it. It's recruiting is just such a whole new world now with the transfer portal, and people wanting instant gratification for things. Our veteran coaches, they're not worrying too much about it because they know that the cream will rise to the crop. And they also know that some schools are gonna spend money on kids that they honestly shouldn't spend money on. And suddenly they're gonna say, we'll get them the second time around. We're fine with that. But the parents and the kids have there's a lot of anxiety that goes along with it. But I think it'll remain to be seen if you can walk on. I remember Greg Troy saying this once. He said, you're going to go on a visit and it's going to be superficial and everybody's going to be your best friend and everything. Go back and visit campus sometime when you're not there on a recruiting visit and see if this is a place where you want to be. And with the dead period that we've dealt with for the last 12 months, guess what? You can still go on campus and explore and probably see a different version of it. And then you might also be able to have, instead of a 20-minute conversation in the coach's office where the power dynamic is really tilted in favor of the coach, you're going to be able to sit on the couch with your family and talk with them over Zoom for an hour and, get to see how they interact with their kids or their dog, and you can pick up a lot of other things. I think we have to give, kids a lot of credit. They've grown up in this environment in a way that we haven't. So
right.
I'm trying not to judge it too much just yet, but I recognize that the anxiety is there.
What's my deadline to tell people to get signed up by? Do you have a firm deadline we got to meet?
Well, it starts Monday morning, and once you sign up, all the sessions will be available for 30 days. So,
kind of like ASCA did.
Yeah, kind of like that.
Great.
One thing that you'll miss out on, and this is one of the just crazy ideas that I throw against the wall every day, and most of my staff, my staff will say 3 out of 4 times, Greg, don't bark up that tree. That's a bad idea. But what we're doing is we're everyday speakers, and you guys have been to conventions, there's always somebody that sits in the front row at the end of a session and asks a really long question. Actually, they describe it for 2 minutes, and then they take 15 seconds to ask the question. And it's a question that's just not relevant. And then somebody says something, and then, all of a sudden somebody steps, well, we got to clear the room because the next talk starts in 30 seconds. So what we're going to do is that day's speakers, we're going to bring them back at night, 5:00 every night. So if we've got 3 people talking about backstroke on Monday, like we do, we're going to put them all in a virtual happy hour room, so we can do a combined Q&A. And I think some of it will be technical, but I'll be honest with you, I can't wait to hear Gary Hall and Ernie McGlishko just talking back and forth and wind up having it turn into stories about Doc Councilman or something along those lines. So that will be live. And again, it might blow up in our face, but that was one that my staff was like, we can probably give that a try. So we'll see.
Well, do it. It'll be like a panel thing. That would be cool.
I think it'll be fun.
I've just been looking at the lineup. It is very impressive. You can find it at cscaa.org. Just click on convention, and the price for current college coaches is $129, $179 for high school, club, and retired coaches, but still sounds like a great deal. Monday through Thursday, May 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th, and it ought to be a great one.
Greg, thank you for doing this. I mean, again, on such short notice, and this is going to be fantastic. I'm going to sign up. Thank you.
Looking forward to it. Thanks for the time, guys. Appreciate all you're doing.
Appreciate it, Greg.
right.
Have fun.
We'll
Take
do
it easy.
Thanks for joining us on this special episode of Swim Talk. Our guest has been Greg Earhart, Executive Director of the College Swimming and Diving Coaches Association of America. You can sign up for the virtual online annual convention at cscaa.org. But you'd better hurry. It runs Monday through Thursday, May 3rd through the 6th. Sign up now.